multiplying and dividing with negative numbers. To start with, I'm going to explain why our rules work. This is really helpful for some people, but if you don't want to remember why the rules work, you can just remember the rules. To work out why the rules for multiplying and dividing with negative numbers work, some examples would be a good idea. If I thought about negative 2 as meaning, for example, I lost 2 pens, so I ended up with negative 2 pens. If I lost 2 pens in my year 8 class and 2 pens in my year 9 class and 2 pens in my year 10 class because 2 people in each forgot a pen and I lent them one and they didn't give it back, then lost 2 pens, then that would be 3 lots of negative 2. But I know that multiplication, 3 lots of something, can be written as 1 lot of something plus another lot of that thing plus another lot of that thing. And it's pretty obvious that if I lost 3 lots of 2 pens, I've lost 6 pens. Negative 2, take away another 2, take away another 2 is negative 6. This helps us get our first rule. Positive times a negative equals a negative. Because here, 3 times negative 2 definitely gave us a negative answer, and we can see why. Now we know that multiplication works both ways. 2 times 3 is 6, and 3 times 2 is 6. So if I write this around the other way with the negative in front, it still has to equal negative 6. So that means a negative times a positive is also going to be a negative. So these are basically the rules when a negative is multiplied by a positive or a positive is multiplied by a negative. 2 different signs are multiplied together. We're going to get a negative answer. Now, we also know that if I write, say, 2 times 3 is 6, that means I also know 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I can take a multiplication and get a division from it. Now, since I know that negative 2 times 3 equals negative 6, I must be able to say negative 6 divided by negative 2 equals positive 3. So this is telling me that a negative divided by a negative gives me a positive. So here's a rule about dividing. Negative divided by a negative gives me positive. Now, if I investigated a little bit more, for example, if I had this same one here, I know that 6 divided by negative 2 gives me positive 3. And if I go and rearrange up here, I would discover that negative 6 divided by 3 gives me negative 2. All I've done is I've taken this, I've got a multiplication, and I can have a division. So that would tell me that a negative divided by a positive gives me a negative. So there's all these different ways of looking at the reasons why these rules work. We haven't quite finished all the rules. You can see that I've looked at a negative divided by a positive, negative times a positive, negative divided by the negative. That rule continues, a negative times a negative is a positive. So our overall rule, and this is the bit you do need to know, you don't need to know why if you don't want, it helps. But the overall rule is that if you're multiplying or dividing two numbers with opposite signs, multiply or divide two numbers with opposite signs, so one's plus and one's minus, or one's positive and one's negative, opposite signs, our answer will be negative. So a positive times a negative is negative, a negative times a positive is negative, a negative divided by a positive is negative. That rule there. If we multiply or divide two numbers with the same signs, so negative times a negative or a positive times a positive, our answer will be positive. Sorry, my writing's messy. So a couple of examples. 3 times negative 7. Sometimes we put those negatives in brackets so they're a little clearer. Negative 4 times negative 12. Negative 63 divided by 7. Negative 121 times negative 11. Let's try some of these. If you want, you can pause my instructions and try them yourself. So, the best way to think about these. First, ask yourself, is my answer going to be positive or negative? 3 times negative 7. No sign in front of the 3 means there's an invisible plus. Positive times a negative, my answer will be negative. And then just do the maths. 3 times 7 is 21, so my answer is negative 21. Next question. Ask ourselves, will my answer be positive or negative? I've got a negative times a negative. I must get a positive answer. And 4 times 12 is 48. Here I've got a negative divided by a positive. Different signs, we know my answer will be negative. And then just do the division. 63 divided by 7 is 9. Last one, another 4. I wrote times. I want to divide. That would be a very difficult multiplication. Negative divided by negative is positive, and 121 divided by 11 is 11.